Hi, I'm Pastor Horton. This week we are joined by Mr. Mark Mostenbocker. Welcome to the podcast.
Pastor Horton, it's great to be here with you. I'm very excited about the opportunity and really have deep respect and value what you're doing with your podcast. So thanks so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you. So we talked a little bit, and I don't necessarily have a starting point, except I would love to hear more about your story.
So I started writing a book last year. I kind of semi-retired, but I had wanted to do that for some time, but yeah, time is everything. So so one of the essential elements of my life story is the fact that December 28th, 1964, I was 8 years old, and my parents left to go to a ministerial holiday function.
Mhm.
And About 15 minutes after they left, they were both killed in a car accident. And so I was somewhat devastated, obviously. And, you know, my mother's mother came in to raise us, but my grandfather had passed away already. So she was 64 and widowed at the time. And she took five kids. I had a brother that was 10 years older, a brother that was 8 years older, a brother that was 5 years older. I was eight. And then I had a little sister 3 years or 5 years younger. She was 3 years old when my parents died. So, so almost immediately, kind of the whole thing that began to happen for me was the need of a father. And it really, life is kind of uncertain to begin with, and then adding this missing element of a living and caring guide from someone who's really instrumental in your creation only kind of adds to the disparity. My father was a minister, so I distinctly remember the VBS before they passed away. I gave my life to Christ, and my father was there with me, and they had like a 9 foot cross in the front of the church, and they got these
Wow.
big train spikes, and you got to nail a train spike into the cross. Um, and so I do believe that, there was that piece. And we had a number of people in our family that were in the ministry, a number of relatives. And I remember one of my great uncles sat me down relatively early. He's in my book, but he shared with me from Psalms, and the verse is, "Sing to God, sing praises to His name, exalt Him who rides on the clouds. His name is the Lord, and rejoice before Him, a Father of the fatherless." So I knew I had that. I knew that I had that, um, but I do think there's something beyond that intangible. It's truth, and I believe that and accept that. Tony Dungy said, "Fatherless is a silent epidemic. It doesn't leave children without a dad. It leaves them without part of themselves." And so there is this touch that needs to happen in our lives. Pope John the 23rd said, "It's easier for a father to have children than children to have a real father." So I that was kind of the dilemma. And when my parents passed away, they gave us no counseling. They gave us nobody came and dealt with us, no professionals. And so while I was kind of awash in this uncertainty without any fatherly guidance, um, God saw the opportunity to bring mentors and men into my life, um, who stepped forward and filled this vital role. And I think one of the things that I came to a conclusion pretty early on as a kid, to be honest, was that a key to life was to include the whole concept of embracing change. Every single one of these men will encourage me to become something more. And I think that's what's super amazing about it. Um, I would say today they all wanted me to be a better Mark.
Yeah.
That was just kind of the story, right? So I think it was they saw the opportunity to support and affirm me, and that human spirit that comes out in people. Um, it's a I say it's a miracle, but it's also priceless, right?
Yeah.
You can't put a value on that. You can't go out and pay somebody to do that because they do that out of the kindness of their heart, and they give to you. in that way. I have a quote in there that I love, um, and it's from Winston Churchill. He says, "To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do an incredibly special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for what could have been their finest hour." And so I am the benefactor of getting to be connected to these men in their finest hour. That's the way I see them.
Yeah.
They were just absolutely amazing. So um, so I think the whole premise then that people need to understand is is really the essence of giving, which was composed of everything on earth and in fact the universe, right? In Genesis, God creates everything and then he creates us, man and woman, in his likeness and image. So everything that leads up to that is all for us. And so, when you think about it, that this is a living and giving process that provides for all of us um, in our needs to exist and grow. And I think that's a crucial quality then for us to emulate as we walk through life, because that is really what God wanted to do for us. He wanted to give to us to help us. So I say all that as I believe that everything is a giving economy and everything's for our benefit. And when we consider the physical world, we actually find that all of nature and the universe for that matter are here to provide substance for our needs. So, for instance, vegetation of the world doesn't consume all their fruits and vegetables, and the snow and the rain and the rivers don't consume the water they provide.
Yeah.
And the fragrant flowers don't take all the glorious aroma they produce. And the moon and the sun don't benefit from the light that they produce. The fact that all these elements and everything else in the earth are for our benefit is constantly about the giving to nurture our existence and to make our lives better. And what's amazing is as humans, we mess this place up sometimes pretty bad. And it's adaptive
Yeah.
because God planned all that, right? He knew all that. So I think it's an empirical lesson to learn and provide as we walk through life. Giving is the chief enterprise of nature and the universe from God, and we should emulate that as a part of our daily thoughts, habits, and actions. And my grandma raised me, and she used to say, "You reap what you sow, son. You reap what you sow."
Yeah, I've
And
heard that
and
one.
and that's really a fact, I believe,
Mhm.
as what you do for or to others will always come back to you. But in Proverbs 11:25, it states, "A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshed others will be refreshed." And I begin to see that verse as entrusting us. God empowers each of us to be a blessing. For the more we give, the more he gives back to us. And I even in a lesson labeled this is the cycle of abundance, divine abundance, right?
Yeah.
God comes back to you and says, "That's so good. I'm going to do more good. That's so good. I'm going to do more good." So then we see that Jesus stated, "For God so loved the world that he gave." And so I believe that love is the paramount element or answer to all of life. And the action of love is giving.
Yeah.
So if we live from the premise that love is giving, then we look at wisdom from Proverbs. 4:23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." Well, unlike other creation, God gives us a choice. And in doing this, God gives us control over what enters and shapes our inner life. From that place, we impact the world around us by giving. So Jesus even stated in Matthew 7:12, "Therefore, whatever you want to do for others, do also the same for them. This is the law of the prophets." So when you give, you will get in return. That's just how good God is, right?
Yeah.
But I think everybody kind of needs to really ponder that because everything else has to do what it does without a choice. Humans are the only thing in the world that gets to choose, right?
Yes.
So the sun can't come up tomorrow and say, "I'm burned out on being hot. I'm going to chill for a while." That's not going to happen. And if you plant an apple tree, it can't produce pears or peaches or plums. It does what it's designed to do. But we get to choose, and Proverbs then tells us it's all about wise choices. And I think the wisest choice is giving. So let me just share one other thing that I think is really important because we don't just live on the earth, we live with the earth, in the earth, and through the earth. And for me, that's a crucial concept for everybody on Earth to understand because interdependence is not optional, right?
Yeah.
Our task is not to master nature, it's to learn to live and labor in harmony with its generosity. God said we had to work. So it's not a give me. So the earth doesn't give to us because we deserve it. It gives to us because giving is what the earth, the world, the universe does. So so we are what we do, and we get more of what we are because of what we do. So I give you a short story. I'm 19 years old, and I own a home with my brother, and I'm on my way to get a new CD. And I'm driving down the road. As I pull out onto a major boulevard, I start down the road and I see this old lady over on the curb with a flat tire. And to be honest with you, I thought of my grandma as soon as I saw her. I thought, oh, my grandma didn't drive, but I thought, oh man. So I pulled over. I got out of the car and I said, "Oh, it looks like you got a flat tire." She's, worried. I don't, and I said, "What? Can I change it for you?" She goes, "Would you do that?" I said, "Yeah, sure, sure." I mean, hopefully you got everything in the car. But so we opened the trunk and I got the tire out, and it was the tire against the curb. So I was working up against the curb, and I started working on the tire. And she says, "Well, now where did you grow up?" And she started asking me questions, and she did kind of remind me of my grandma, just being always inquisitive and thoughtful. And so I told her where I lived, or where I was born, and where I started to grow up. And then I moved, and she said, "Oh, and what street did you live on in Paramount?" And I told her the street, and she said, just all of a sudden, she stopped and she said, "You're not one of the Motsenbocker boys, are you?" And I'm like choked up. All of a sudden, I'm like, "How would you know that?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I am. I'm the youngest boy." She said, "I've been praying for you and your brothers and little sister since the day your parents died." And I was overwhelmed. I can't tell you how
Wow.
much but that's God working in and through the world in which we live.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wanted to give me $5 for changing her tire. I was like, no, 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 no. And she was like insistent, you have to take this money. And I said, no, no, I can't take the money. I said, I can't. You keep praying for me because I said that's priceless. You can do that for. Went home and called my grandma and I said, so I met this lady, Miss Edith. And she goes, oh my goodness, she used to bring clothes to you kids all the time. She was the sweetest. I haven't talked to her in years. And I said, well, I got her number from her because I said, my grandma must. She goes, oh, yeah, I knew your grandma. And anyway, that's how God works in the world of giving.
Oh yeah.
And that's so I think because giving is the constant of nature and because it's so balanced and everlasting, we would be wise to learn this basic principle and give and benefit from it every day. I think people need to remember there's no such thing as a small act of kindness. I know people say that all the time today.
Hmm.
Every act of giving creates a ripple with no logical end,
Yeah.
right? So that lady's kindness to me went full circle from when I was 8 until I was 19 and came back and I changed her tire in a moment of need.
Yeah.
So that's really, I think, an important piece. I think everything I do today is with the intent and purpose of making a difference through habitual giving. So I tell people all the time, you need to make giving a habit, right?
Yeah.
Because we are what we repeatedly do. Greatness is not an action, or excellence is not an action. It's a habit. And
Yeah.
it's Christ wanted us to develop the habits that made an impact on the world. And so you make your life meaningful by applying the meaning of giving.
Yeah.
Uh, and I have a couple other good quotes here. I think, goodness and riches is not made by what we possess, it's by what we give.
Hmm.
And I say all that because can you imagine a world where everybody gives? Where
Yeah.
they give their time, they give their energy, they give their emotions, their gifts, their talents, they give it all,
Yeah.
right? Now I can tell you that in Acts, it talks about the first church, and it says they all met together regularly, they shared everything in common, and God added to their number daily,
Hmm.
right? So I'm not trying to sell this too much, but I am trying to sell it, right?
But
Mother
it is.
Teresa said something that I was pretty impressed by. She said the biggest disease today is not leprosy or tuberculosis, but rather the feeling of being unwanted, uncared for, and deserted by everybody. the opportunity to give is what makes life so good.
Yeah.
So,
Um, I'll make three quick points, and then I'd love to hear more about your book before we run out of time.
gotcha.
Um, the first point, um, fairly similar. I have had two dads. Both of them are no longer in my life for varying reasons. And it's really interesting to see the way that God works because, in a similar way, I've had different male figures in my life enter and teach me a lot about what it means to live in this
Hmm.
world as a male figure. And it's just really incredible to see the way that God uses those people to teach us. The second
Exactly.
point that I wanted to make was that I recently did a devotional on charity and how charity, I love how you said giving is the act of love, because I say almost that exactly in that devotional,
Mm-hmm.
because love and charity, it's, I can pull it up real quick. It is Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13:1. Uh, He's talking about love and what it is and what it isn't. Paul is, but he uses the word agape, that Greek word.
Hmm.
And depending on the version of the Bible you look at, a lot of them do say love, but the King James version uses charity.
Hmm.
And it's really it's really fun to look at the difference
Hmm.
because in at least my own understanding, love is an emotion. It's a feeling, whereas charity is an action. You can be
Hmm.
charitable. And that ties into the third point that I wanted to make, which was that love, like you said, is a lifestyle.
Hmm.
It's a habit, it's a lifestyle, it's a way of existing. It's not just an emotion, which I think a lot of people forget
Hmm.
because we um English only has one word for love, and that's love. I
Right.
love the Greeks because they have like six different words for it.
Exactly.
And it's so incredible to see. I was talking with somebody in a youth group that I helped to lead, and we were talking about love, and he said, "Well, I think the word is used too much." And I said, "I have to disagree with you. I
Hmm.
don't think it's used enough.
Yeah.
I just think that the context is wrong. When
Right.
we think about love, we think about a romantic love with a partner, and that's fine. That is a type of love, but there are so many other ways to love people.
Hmm.
And love really is the ultimate foundation of what it means to be a Christian. Above all else, we're given two commandments: love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself.
Exactly.
That's it. Both of them were to love, the greatest commandments. So, love really is, in my opinion, the most important thing that we can do in our lives.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um, and now I will hand it over to you. I would love to hear more about this book and where we can all find it.
Yeah. So the book is called Searching for Father. Subtitle is A Son's Pursuit for a Father's Presence. And then um, it's really how ordinary men become extraordinary guides. And there's 26 men in the book. It starts from Uncle John isn't my uncle. He's my dad's best friend, but he says, you call me Uncle John and her Aunt May. We're family now after my father passed. All the way up to a gentleman that I'm good friends with who is a role model in a number of ways. And so you have to read the book to find out what those are. How does that sound? But yeah, so and it's available on Amazon. Ingram Spark has it available through Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. So there's a number of ways you can get it. And I do have a website, but if people want to contact me, I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. And I've told everybody, if you get a hold of me and want to talk, I'll be available. I want to give you the time. That's a part of who I am. I'm a giver. I know that. My wife says I give too much, and I say, yeah, but God is good. So,
Yeah,
um, so that's the places they can find it. I do have a website. It's a business name, so I started a business a number of years ago, but it's New NEW Dimensions, INTLCO. So New Dimensions International Company.
hmm,
Um, and you can ping me on there too. You can book an appointment to talk to me, but I'm not trying to make money off any of that. I just want to help people, right? The
absolutely.
book's really all about me becoming a better me. And I do believe that that's a critical component. And if I can help others become a better them, then to God be the glory and honor.
Absolutely. Amen. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I will post or link all of that information when this goes live.
Great.
And I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Please remember to share this message with anybody who you feel may be benefited from it. And again, have a wonderful week and God bless.